I find it hard to disagree with the idea of that nurse who gets up in the morning and got up in the morning at the height of COVID and left her family or his family and went into the COVID ward and worked with COVID positive patients and exposed themselves to danger. There was no vaccine and no realistic prospect of a vaccine. It's hard to disagree that that person isn't deserving of some reward or remuneration. But what about the other doctors and nurses who maybe were on and off that ward but also spent a lot of time on other wards that were actually very quiet during the year because so much of the other work in the hospitals was cancelled? Do you reward them in the same way? Do you reward GPs who played such a central role in fighting COVID and also in the vaccine rollout? They're all private enterprises individually, but does the state reward them for the work they did? I mean, where do you draw the line? That's what it all comes back to. Dermot O'Leary of the MBRU says all frontline workers. But again, how do you define who frontline workers are? Is the bus mechanic and the bus driver both frontline workers? Dermot says yes. Some might say no. And this idea of €1 billion as well to reward everybody in the public and civil service. I mean, in that case, you'd be rewarding a nurse to the same degree you'd be rewarding the fella who was handed a laptop in the passport office back in March and told to head on home and hasn't been back since. They would get the same reward as that nurse going in to the COVID ward. I mean, that kind of sticks in my craw, and I suspect it sticks in the craw of a lot of people, including a lot of nurses, I would wager. And again, the cost, €1 billion. Now, €250 billion is the national debt. You might say $1 billion is a drop in the ocean in that regard. We can afford to borrow €1 billion. But if we can afford to borrow €1 billion, some might say we can't, but if we can, is this the best way to spend it? Like, we don't have enough nurses. We don't have enough doctors. We don't have enough GPs. We don't have enough healthcare assistants. We don't have enough buses, to bring it back to Dermot O'Leary and the MBRU. Is that not the type of thing you remedy if you can borrow €1 billion instead of giving the mechanic in the yard 10 days annual leave?